Ultimately, when you have great sales and marketing alignment, you create happy customers because
Totally.
the message that we took to the market is the message that the salesperson sold in the market, and then it is what is received by the customer. Do you find, to that end, that companies that may have customer forums where they get stakeholders in and they're engaged with marketing and sales, does that help drive the alignment almost out of a state as necessity because the customer becomes the common driver? So it's not just pushed down from the top, but it's sort of brought into the organization externally.
I think it's certainly a facet to that, and I can't begin to tell you how useful in my career I found customer advisory boards.
Yeah.
Where you bring some of your top customers together to meet with the executives in the organization, and that sales and marketing alignment. You are not there to explicitly sell anything. You are there to listen and to then maybe offer some thoughts about where you think the industry is going and qualify that with your customers. So it helps you on product roadmap. It helps you on industry understanding. It helps you on, how well are we serving our customers truly? It helps you on how you're going to position your propositions and how you're then going to drive your business over the next 18, 24, 36 months.
Yeah, I always think of it as like truth serum.
Exactly.
When you have a customer advisory board, they are telling you like it is. And I think the challenge is always that, sales tends to be a bit more emotional with the feedback that they get from a customer and the desire to please them. Marketing can be a bit cerebral because this is what the analysts say and what the market is dictating. But when you bring the customer in, they actually bring the honest reality. And the fact of the matter is, predominantly the customers we need to be concerned about are the ones that we have.
Yes.
And then we need to be thinking of the adjacent customers who are the ones that we want to get that look enough like the ones we have so they don't overly stretch the organization, but they do allow us to grow market share, perhaps to go into new avenues of revenue or products or services.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's exactly that discipline that you're talking about, whereby, marketing and sales, it's part art and part science. And we sit there and we think, as you rightly say, there is the science part in terms of what are the things we need to be sort of monitoring across the macro environment, the micro environment, getting that great intelligence together so that we then have a way of positioning our propositions in ways that are relevant to and resonant with the audiences we actively want to engage with. And that again is something that marketing can absolutely do. Then taking that message to individuals within the target organizations we want to work with, that is absolutely where sales needs to be aligned to that to be able to do that effectively. And if we're all singing off the same hymn sheet, we end up with much better results.
Absolutely. So it sounds like very practical things like team building can actually be an important thing to get people on the same side and to sort of look, as opposed to two organizations, it's one team with a common goal. And it all sounds actually fairly embarrassingly simplistic, but executing it can be incredibly, incredibly difficult.
Yes.
Do you think any of that has to do with where the budget sits around the different marketing activities?
Partly, yes. And I think that, if you are in a marketing department, you've got a lot of different things that you have to deliver against. Some of them will be sales activation activities. Some of them will be brand activation activities. Yeah. And it's not always seen that brand activation actually is a sales mechanism, though really at the top of the very top of the funnel, where you're talking about defining who are suspects in our universe of people that we could be talking to, that's exactly where brand comes in. And people subconsciously are already making decisions of, is this a brand I actually want to work with? Do I buy into their values? Do I buy into what they're trying to achieve? Do I buy into the fact that actually they're able to deliver some great results for other clients that they work with? And that, I think, is part of the job of, the brand side. When you then get into individual potential pursuits, how do I target an organization? And we've seen the rise of account-based marketing now, which back in the day, I think we used to call strategic account planning from a sales perspective. It's the same thing, Emperor's New Clothes a little bit. But that's a great opportunity, I think, for sales and marketing to really come together. And I think that's the kind of initiative that a lot of organizations can now use as a hook to really get that sales and marketing alignment done.
Yeah, and it's about creating a continuum in the story as well, because I know sometimes the brand message is amazing and it's quite out in front of what the organization is able to deliver, and then you find, I think, that the gap between marketing and sales grows because the pressure either sits on one foot or the other. But if you can bring that collaborative conversation together where people understand, okay, this is the ambition of the brand, then this is how the products and services are going to align to delivering on that promise. These are the kinds of customers we want to target because they're not only going to be profitable, they have a need for what we're trying to sell, and then these are the skills and the types of people that we need to go out and deliver that message. It works quite nicely, but I think we often don't take the time because it's mad. It's mad out there, right? Right. We've got to hurry up. We've got to get it in. We've got to get the job done. Just almost find a warm body.
That's right. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because I firmly believe that the talents, the skills, and the experiences that are required to make marketing and sales alignment work reside within organizations and within the people within those organizations. The challenge, as you rightly describe, is there is simply not the time in the day with all the other pressures to get those things done. And actually, the number of studies that there have been, I've read loads of things in things like Harvard Business Review and The Economist and so on and so forth, that talk incessantly about executives do not have enough time to start thinking strategy.
Yeah.
And actually, it's that focus on being able to develop strategy that I think helps you win out. You have to have a strategy and you have to be able to execute against that strategy. And unfortunately, these things are not things that are delivered in a month or a quarter. They are things that take time. And you're absolutely right to identify market pressure and the short-term view on what have we achieved this quarter, what have we achieved this year, hands to the pumps, because we all know what it's like in the last week of the quarter where it's just get the deals across the line. And suddenly people forget about, actually, these are the things we are working towards in a much longer term. The companies that do that, and I've seen some privately owned companies that are very good at saying, actually, it's not just about how we close out the deal this quarter. It's about how we build a foundation for repeatable, predictable, consistent revenue growth.
And profitable growth as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, profitable, yeah.
I mean, because sometimes you do just chase numbers, right? But
you do.
You always have to remain profitable to stay in the game. In another discussion, we were talking about talent and retaining talent. And the numbers are a bit staggering in sales, anywhere from sort of 27 to 35% turnover per year. And in some organizations, it's probably sadly worse. When you've got that kind of turnover, how do you then factor that in? Or is it an opportunity? Because if what we're talking about somewhat is mindset, then do we see what is a challenge to the business on one hand as a gift on the other?
I think it can be. It is an opportunity to then change the paradigm of how you operate. But equally, you also need to retain some corporate knowledge, because what ends up happening is if your turnover rate is too high, you're not retaining that knowledge. You know what it's like bringing on a new sales team. They're not going to hit the ground running on day one. They may know enough after month one to be dangerous, but they're still not going to be productive. And, it takes time to ramp them up. Even if you go with you're taking over somebody else's territory that maybe had opportunities, you've got to go back in and build those relationships from scratch, so that whatever pipeline was there goes, moves to the right.